A startup called Quibi announced it was shutting down with $350 million still in the bank. This was a company that had raised $1.75 billion before a single subscriber paid anything. It was run by Jeffrey Katzenberg, who used to run Disney's movie studio, and Meg Whitman, who had run eBay and HP. Its shows starred some of the biggest names in Hollywood, and after launching in April 2020, it lasted 6 months. Ask most people why startups die and you'll get a similar answer: they ran out of money. But Quibi gave that $350 million back to its investors and closed anyway, and it's not the strange exception it sounds like. A research firm called CB Insights went through the goodbye letters from 431 funded startups that shut down over the last few years. Those companies had raised $17.5 billion between them, and 70% of the letters still blamed running out of money. The researchers came to a different conclusion. Running out of money is where the story ends, not why it ends. From the banking side, you see it earlier than anyone. The numbers in a dying company's account stop matching its pitch deck months before the end. I'll come back to Quibi because the thing that killed it kills more startups than anything else, and you could see that in the first month. And underneath the money problem, the researchers kept finding the same short list of causes. The most common one is a company building something not enough people want to pay for. In those goodbye letters, it shows up as the root cause more than any other reason in over 40% of the cases. The product can work and the team can be talented, and none of it matters if people don't want the thing enough to keep paying for it. Quibi was the expensive version of this, and the signs showed up in its first month, when the app started falling down in the App Store rankings. The pitch was short: expensive shows made for your phone at $5 a month, and it launched a few weeks into the pandemic. When everyone was stuck at home next to a television the app didn't work on. The company had projected more than 7 million subscribers in its first year. 6 months in, it had about 500,000 paying subscribers, out of millions of people who had downloaded and tried it. The app had problems it could have fixed, but the missing thing wasn't a feature. People felt fine not having Quibi at all. Even the founders came around to it. In their own goodbye letter, they wrote that the idea itself might not have been strong enough to work on its own. You can't spend your way out of that, and Quibi had more to spend than almost anyone. By the time it shut down, roughly $1.4 billion of the money it raised had been spent or committed. The other common cause is a business that loses money on every customer. Winning the customer costs money. Keeping them served and supported costs more, and the customer never pays enough to cover it. So every new sale digs the hole a little deeper. A company like this can look healthy from the outside because revenue is increasing, but every bit of that growth costs more than it brings in. So the faster it grows, the faster it dies. A startup called Zoom is a really good example. Zoom raised nearly $450 million, including $375 million from SoftBank. The plan was robots making pizzas and ovens built into delivery trucks finishing the bake. So the pizza came out hot at your door. The company was valued at over $1 billion, and the robots and trucks were real. But the machines cost a fortune to build and fix. The trucks sat idle most of the day because people mostly order pizza at dinner time, and reportedly the cheese slid off in moving vehicles. Every pizza came with costs no pizza could ever pay back. Zoom shut down its pizza business at the start of 2020 and laid off hundreds of people, including the whole robot and truck teams. Then it spent 3 more years trying to become a packaging company before winding down for good in 2023. The money bought it time but didn't solve the problem. Quibi was dying for months before it closed. Zoom was dying for years, and the whole time, the same warning signs were sitting in their bank accounts. Those signs look the same in almost every dying company, and they show up while the founder is still telling everyone that things are fine. Customers start leaving faster, and the ones who stay take longer to pay. Invoices that used to get paid in 30 days start taking 60, because the customers are stretched too, or because they've stopped treating the product as essential. Some customers start asking for longer payment terms up front, which locks the slower cash in by contract. Meanwhile, the company's own spending keeps climbing. The big bills that came with growth, like servers, software, and suppliers, stay full-sized even as growth slows down. So the company keeps paying for growth it's no longer getting. More of the revenue starts depending on 1 or 2 big customers. On paper, the revenue number looks steady, and the founder can honestly tell investors that sales held up this quarter. Underneath, the company is 1 canceled contract away from losing a big piece of its income in a single email. The biggest warning sign is also the simplest. The pitch deck tells investors the company has more than a year of money left, but the bank account shows 4 to 6 months. Those 2 numbers usually disagree for 6 to 9 months, and the founder keeps telling the better story the whole time. Nobody is lying, at least not on purpose. The founder believes the next quarter fixes it because there's a big deal about to close or a new feature about to ship. And cutting costs now would mean admitting the plan was wrong. So the cuts get pushed back a month and then another month, and every one of those months eats cash the company was counting on. By the time the founder accepts what the bank account has already been showing all along, the turnaround that was possible 6 months earlier has become a shutdown. The founders who act in time have a solid advantage, and it isn't money. They can see their own numbers. Every warning sign in this video assumes the founders can see their own numbers. Plenty can't because the money is spread across 5 different tools, the books were never set up properly, and the real picture only gets assembled once a quarter, if that. Those are the founders who get surprised. A company like 𝐸, for example, built something for exactly that moment. Qualifying startups can apply for free Delaware incorporation right inside 𝐸, in a few minutes without ever leaving the application. It's attorney reviewed, and banking and cards are live as soon as you're set up, even before your EIN. So the company starts with clean books and one place to watch every number, instead of a cleanup job later. Links in the description if you want to check it out. Now, everything so far might sound like these companies never had a chance. Some of the dead ones had paying customers and decent revenue, and they died anyway. Having revenue is not the same thing as having a business. Zoom had pilot customers and lots of orders. Quibi had 500,000 people paying $5 a month. And over the last few years, a wave of lending startups had it even better, with real borrowers, loan payments coming in every month, and growth any founder would envy. Then interest rates climbed, and the money they lent out cost them more to get. More of their borrowers stopped paying, and the investors who funded the loans pulled back all at once. The money coming in was never the issue. The business underneath ran on cheap borrowed money, and when borrowing stopped being cheap, it stopped working. The dead companies with revenue all had a version of the same problem. The revenue cost too much to earn, or it could disappear overnight. Some of them sold something a bigger company could offer for less whenever it chose to, which meant the revenue was never safe. Revenue shows that people paid. Whether the company keeps any of that money and whether those people pay again next year are separate questions, which raises the question every founder in trouble needs answered. Is the company dying or is it struggling? Because those are different things, and they end differently. A dying company and a struggling company can look identical, even to the people inside them. Growth has slowed, cash is getting tighter, and everyone can feel it. The bank account is where they stop looking alike. A dying company has flat revenue, spending that stays high anyway, and no believable path to making more than it spends. The plan is to raise another round, and the numbers are the reason nobody will fund one. A struggling company still has customers worth fighting for. The ones who stayed kept using the product and kept renewing, even while growth is slow, which means the problem is the spending, not the demand. Companies have come back from accounts that looked dead, and the founders who pulled it off did roughly the same 4 things. The first was cutting spending by about half, right away, instead of trimming 5% and hoping the next quarter would be different. That means layoffs, dead projects, and usually no more office, all in the same month. The founders who put it off ended up making the same cuts months later anyway, after it was too late to matter. The second was narrowing the whole company down to the customers who loved the product, and letting go of the rest. The third was raising prices or repackaging what they sold, because the old pricing was part of the problem. And the last was running the company on the money customers paid, instead of on the story they planned to tell investors. The survivors stopped protecting the plan and started protecting the company. The ones who died kept spending like the next round was coming, right up until it didn't. And when the next round doesn't come, the last few months look the same at almost every company, no matter what it sold or how much it raised. Contractors start getting cut, and every bill the company can delay gets delayed. Then payroll starts going out a few days late. Vendors who used to offer normal payment terms start demanding money up front, which drains the cash even faster. The existing investors send small amounts of emergency money, often more to protect what they already invested than as a fresh bet on the company. And board meetings shift from growth plans to how to shut down without leaving a mess. The last of the cash almost always goes to payroll, to small bonuses that keep key people through the end, and one final fundraising attempt that few people involved expect to succeed. And afterward, founders keep saying the same thing. They wish they had acted 6 months earlier when cutting the spending, narrowing the company, or selling it in even a small deal could have still worked. What they regret is the waiting, all those months spent hoping one more round would arrive. Go back to Quibi one more time. Handing back $350 million sounds like the worst outcome a startup can have, and in one way it was. But look at what the decision required. The people running it read their own numbers, believed them, and stopped while stopping was still a choice. Most founders never get that choice, because they keep going until the money decides for them. For most startups, running out of money is where the story ends, not where the problem started. So if you're building, the best protection isn't more funding, because most of the companies in this video had plenty. It's knowing your numbers every week and acting on them while there's still time for it to matter. Qualifying startups can apply for free Delaware incorporation right inside Row. Attorney reviewed with banking and cards live as soon as you're set up. Links in the description. And if you're going to raise money for your own company someday, it's worth knowing how those deals work before you sign one. If you don't understand funding, you don't understand startups is the one to watch next.